So in last week's video, I talked about some problems I was having in my 2024 Subaru Outback Wilderness. Well, this week, we're going to talk about all of the findings and everything that I have been able to gather over the past 7 days to hopefully give you some comfort. So what is up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Josh, and over the past 3 or 4 years, I've been building adventure vehicles, exploring with them, taking them on photography trips, family camping trips, building vans, doing all the stuff adventure related here on the channel. Well, this is my second Subaru Outback Wilderness, and in my first Subaru Outback Wilderness, I had some problems. But in this Subaru Outback Wilderness, it seems that the problems are starting to happen much quicker. But I do have some good information that I think will give you guys some comfort and help explain some of the issues that you're having. Now, if you're new to the channel, then you probably don't know Adventure Rig Shop is the sponsor of this video and pretty much everything that is Subaru Outback Wilderness related. You can check the link in the description and use the code NOMAD at checkout to save yourself 5% on just about anything you could imagine for your Subaru Outback Wilderness. The first thing that I want to discuss is the rough ride. And it's something that I mentioned I had not started experiencing until about 30,000 miles in my 2022 Outback Wilderness. And in my 24 Outback Wilderness, I have 12,000 miles on that car right now, and I'm starting to notice a rough ride much sooner. If you watched last week's video, you know I attributed a lot of my Ironman, or a lot of the rough ride to my Ironman suspension in my 22. In my 24, I said I'm not putting a suspension kit on it simply because I didn't want to mess with any of those components, but yet I'm still having this rough ride. And some people had mentioned in the comments specifically about the Nitto Nomad grapplers that I have on my 2024. On my 2022, I had the BFG KO2s. That's generally what I run on all of my vehicles. The GX460 has them. The Sprinter van has the KO2s. My Raptor has the KO2s, and on the 24 Outback Wilderness, I put the Nitto Nomad grapplers because they had sent them to me previously prior to their launch for me to make a review video on them. And after 12,000 miles, those tires are starting to run very rough. And thanks to people in the comments, they had made mention of an ongoing issue with Nitto tires, where after 10 or 12,000 miles, the soft compound of the rubber starts to wear off, which increases the rough or rigid ride that I may be experiencing. So it may actually have absolutely nothing to do with the car, which makes me feel really good because it didn't make sense that there would be issues with a brand new car or any type of suspension problems because, 12,000 miles isn't that many and it hasn't gone on a lot of rough roads. I went over all that in the previous video and I won't talk about it again, but the rough ride I'm experiencing, I believe, is attributed to the Nomad grapplers. And it's kind of sucky because I really like the tire. I like the look of the tire, but it looks like I'm going to be going back to my KO2s. And a lot of people will say KO2s are too heavy for this vehicle, and all that may be true. But for me, I had a much better ride, and it took 30,000 really hard miles for me to start noticing that car riding rough. And I'm not saying the Ironman suspension did not play a part in it, but after 12,000 miles on factory suspension, I shouldn't be feeling the rough ride. So if you have Nitto Nomad grapplers on your vehicle or you have any Nitto tire or experience with that, leave that stuff in the comments because I think last week's video helped a lot of people out and gave a lot of people information that maybe they don't get from the dealer or that isn't readily available on the internet without going through a rabbit hole on Reddit, which is kind of a nightmare. So I think I'm going to be switching from the Nomad grapplers back to the BFG KO2s. I don't know exactly when I'm going to do that, but it is definitely something to consider when you start experiencing a rough ride after only 12,000 miles. The tires were never something that crossed my mind. I don't know why. I should have thought about it, but thank you to all the people who left comments explaining their experience with Nitto tires, and it made me feel a lot better about the overall capability and durability of the 2024 Outback Wilderness. All right, so the stuttery stops. The stuttery stops was something that everybody almost said that they feel in their vehicle too. And somebody else had just mentioned recently in the comments that it was their brake pads, or they feel that it was their brake pads. I felt the same thing. I had mine replaced. It did not change what was happening. Well, I have some really good information from a guy on Instagram who sent me a message who is actually a Subaru tech. And the way he explained it to me is it's the torque converter, and other people have also made mention of this in the comments. And the torque converter locks, and then the torque converter unlocks as you depress the accelerator and you let off of the accelerator. So when you're traveling and you're coming to a stop and you're pushing your brakes quickly, that torque converter has to unlock, which allows the transmission to work through its gears. At least I think I'm explaining this appropriately. And that makes the car feel like it's jumping. That is another reason you may be experiencing the same issues at highway speeds of 70, 80, 85 miles an hour, because that torque converter, once it gets up to speed, unlocks. And if you start to go up any type of hill, that torque converter re-engages to find the right RPM that's best suitable for gas mileage. So every time you're messing with that accelerator or your incline or decline changes, that torque converter pops into place and it clicks in, which makes it feel like the car is jumping around and stuttering when you're stopping, as well as stuttering at highway speeds. So everyone who is experiencing that problem, it sounds to me like it is a normal problem. Brandon on Instagram had let me know, the Subaru tech, that you can actually have a relearn done on your transmission at the dealer. So it is something that you can have the dealer take a look at, which I did not even know was a thing that you could do. So he said, take it to a dealer, have your transmission relearned. He was having the same problems in his 24 Outback Wilderness. He relearned his transmission and the problem is now gone. So I think that's super good information for anybody who's having that problem, who is kind of on the fence about what's going on. That's the information I got from somebody in Subaru, which was super, super helpful. So if you're looking for any type of answer, that may be what you got. In the last video, I talked about a whining sound coming from the engine compartment. It could have been the CVT. Somebody made mention in the comments that it could also be the turbo, which I never took into consideration. I don't believe the turbo would be whining like that. It's not that powerful of a turbo. It's not a good sound. And usually, like, your turbo winds up and you can hear it spool on like a really fast car. But I don't think that the turbo is the issue, and it could be the CVT. So on Instagram, a gentleman, Brandon S., who I'll talk about in this video a couple of times, he made mention of the fact that it could be a leaking front pump seal on your CVT. And I will put an image on the screen that shows you the diagram that he sent me, that Subaru sent all of their techs to look if you have a leaking front pump seal on your CVT. And that could be causing that whining noise that I'm hearing. I have not crawled underneath the car. I'm going to do that right when I'm done today to kind of take a look to see if I can see any of the residue buildup from a leaking pump seal on the CVT. But that is something to take into consideration. If you're having that issue or you're hearing that noise, it could be coming from that pump seal leaking. I don't know. I'm going to find out. But that is something that you want to take a look at, especially if it's something that you're starting to hear on a regular basis. You don't want to have problems with your CVT when you're wherever you are in the middle of nowhere on an adventure in your Outback Wilderness. Okay, so that does it for this week's video. I made this video as a follow-up to last week because it seems like a lot of people kind of got fired up. That was not my intention to fire people up. I just want to comment and talk about things that I'm experiencing, and it seems like a lot of other people are experiencing them as well. And hopefully this gives you a little bit of comfort with the things that you may be dealing with. If you have any additional questions or any concerns, whatever it is, leave them in the comments. I will get to them as soon as I can. But from this point forward, I think I feel pretty good about it. I feel good about the Outback Wilderness now. I was probably jumping the gun a bit, talking about selling it. Right now, it's a good vehicle. I'm going to replace the tires. I'm going to check the seal on the CVT, see if I have any issues there and take it to the dealer if I do. But overall, I think the car is in good health. I was just being a little bit annoying probably, and probably just overbearing about the car in general. So I will continue to drive it and continue to see what happens with it, and see where the Outback Wilderness takes me this year. And we will make a decision on what we're going to do in 2025 when it comes to the Outback Wilderness. So if you guys liked the video and it was helpful, like it, subscribe, share it, do all that fun stuff, and I will see you on the next one.